Welcome to Rock Your Talk Expert Interview Series with Leisa Reid. I am Leisa Reid, founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now, where I coach speakers on how to get booked, stay booked, and monetize their message so they can make a big impact in the world and attract their ideal clients. I'm also the proud trainer at Productive Learning, where we specialize in self-mastery from anywhere you are in business or life and you're really wanting to move the needle, start to really understand your own internal workings and your own emotional resilience. We have been helping people over 28 years with their own self-mastery. So welcome to the show. And I am very excited to bring Brian Montes on. He is our guest today. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Excited to be on your show today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Sure. So my company is called Scaleocity Works, and we are an HR management firm, but we focus heavily on the strategic side of HR. So, at the end of the day, our why is really about building better work environments, right? We all spend a lot of time working. We spend a lot of time, whether it's remote or in the office or wherever we're working, we spend a lot of hours doing that. So for us, our focus is building better work environments and making work enjoyable for people.
And I love what we were talking a little bit before in the green room beforehand. And Brian is actually live at a client site that is an essential business, which is so cool. So I'm so excited to hear how he's helping people. And this is kind of some bonus tips that he's going to offer. But I know that you are you're getting that firsthand experience of like, okay, here's an essential business. How are we going to shift based on, shelter in place and physical distancing,
Right.
social distancing, whatever we want to talk about. And you're actually there on site right now going, guys, are we good? Hey, you need to be over there. So tell us a little bit about that experience. I just think that's so, that's gonna be really helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah. So when the stay-at-home order was issued, we had to take a look at the companies that we work with, and some are non-essential. And so obviously they didn't stay open. Then we had some businesses that are considered the essential businesses, food supply, manufacturing, certain distribution companies. So for us, I didn't have the ability to constantly stay home, definitely home more than not now. But so for our clients that are essential businesses, and this one happens to be a fish manufacturing plant.
Yeah, we need fish to eat.
Yep, we're still eating
that's
fish.
Important.
Exactly. So what we have to do with this type of facility is redesign the layout of the plant so that we can ensure there's social distancing, right? We have to move workplace safety to a higher level than it even was before.
Wow.
Right. So we redesigned the plant floor so that we have everybody at least 6 feet apart from each other, right? Because you've got cutters, you've got pin boners, you've got different levels in the production line. So we redesigned that floor so that we have social distancing. Everybody is now wearing face masks. We've written COVID-19 response policies. So we have a policy for, how we're dealing with temperature checking of employees, how we're handling anybody else that has to come to the facility. There's a whole new set of protocols that are followed to make sure that the goal is not about if we get an exposure. The goal is to prevent exposure altogether so that the plant never has a problem.
Yeah, and I think you offer the unique perspective on that, because what you do at Scaleocity already is like, okay, what are our protocols? What are our procedures? How do we legally protect ourselves, the employees, the people, the business? And so you're already really well versed in that thinking, right? Like we don't all have that gift or the knowledge, right? To do that. And so I would imagine for someone like you, it was easier than the average Joe, right? To go, okay, let me translate my skills to what we're up against now and just almost like plug and play, but there's still this customizing needed, right? For
Correct.
Wherever you're at.
Right. So yes, I mean, you're taking those years of experience and now we've accelerated it. So, we make that pivot, we make those adjustments, but even, I was doing a lot of research, a lot of late night conversations, talking to other experts. What do you think about this? Right. And we just kind of get that brain trust of conversations going because everybody's going through it at the same time. So, we talked to other fish plants, other food manufacturing plants. How are you doing it? So a lot of best practices were shared because we're all navigating this new normal together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's an opportunity to link arms and build relationships with people in the space that you're, in the level that you're in. Exactly. And I know you had some tips you were going to share that that was kind of a super duper bonus tip, but tell me a little bit about your first tip that you were going to share. And it was regards to employees working from home and things like that, right?
Yeah, one of the things that from an organizational preparedness standpoint, employers need to be ready for the next new norm, right? This COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the greatest accelerators of workforce change, right? I mean,
Yes.
HR and workforce is always evolving, but this has really accelerated it.
Rapid.
What
Yeah.
does that
Rapid.
next chapter look like? So the first tip that I want to talk about is, the work from home environment and philosophy was already out there and growing, becoming an increasing and growing trend. But now it's going to become more of the new norm, meaning that as people go to look for new employment opportunities, for many of them, work from home will become a criteria, not a nice to have, right? So as an employer, what do you do to get ready for that? And so our suggestion on that is, you need to be able to look at your workforce, look at your company, look at your organization and say, what positions can I permanently make work from home? Can I create a hybrid environment where some of my positions are remote so I can attract the best talent? And what positions do I need to have in the office if you're manufacturing, life sciences, building medical devices, right? So the strategy really in reorganizing and getting ready for the work from home that's going to continue is 100% work from home, or do you create a hybrid structure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great because it opens up a lot of possibilities. All of a sudden where you couldn't work from home, now we're still like, well, we have to.
Mhm.
You're like, oh, wow, we actually were more productive. I mean, I'm imagining that some people are finding higher productivity or, maybe sometimes they're finding the opposite. I'm not sure, but
Well,
good to find out.
I think what we're proving is that performance can be delivered regardless of whether you're in the office or whether you are remote,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, it's no longer about FaceTime. It's about that productivity level.
Yeah, I know at Productive Learning, we have been, around 28 years, and all of our workshops have been live in person.
Hmm.
Everything that we do, from Conscious Leadership Circle to our weekend workshops to us taking people to Africa, which is still on the books right now.
That sounds like a
And
fun trip.
it is. It's going to be an amazing trip, and a safari, and all these are great, great, wonderful experiences. And we've really loved that live interaction and the exchange of energy. And just like everyone else, it's like, okay, time to pivot. And we had already been
Right.
working on something virtual back in December. Where it was like, okay, 2020, we're going to do something virtual. Thank goodness we already had that starting the process of, but like you had mentioned about, it was accelerated,
Hmm.
extremely accelerated, and we just launched our first live or virtual workshop, and all of our other workshops of continuing clients had been virtual as well. So, and I have to say, there's still so much richness and sharing and connectivity and growth that we're experiencing. And I don't know if we ever would have really dived in to that had we not had to, and it's
Right.
been pleasantly surprising that how much we can still connect with everyone, even in a virtual model.
Yeah. No, a lot of the conversations and relationships have elevated for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you had a couple other tips too. What else you got
Yeah.
for us?
Tip number two, and again, this is all around for employers and organizations preparing for the next chapter, the next new normal. The other tip number two is, up until this pandemic, health and wellness has been a benefit or a perk, right? A lot of organizations try to bring that into the workplace as, hey, this is something we add value to the employee experience by bringing in some of these health and wellness options, whether it's gym memberships or healthy eating options or whatever those perks were. But coming through this, the focus on our team members' mental health it can no longer be considered a perk or a benefit. It's
Yeah,
something that we have to include in the employee experience and be prepared to bring in resources to support, the emotional well-being of our team as we move forward.
100%.
It's going to become a requirement, no longer a nice to have.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I mean, obviously there's sources through the county that are available. There's probably a multitude of choices depending on
Hmm.
the size of the organization and their ability to offer. We've had a few companies over the years send every single employee through our Beyond Reasons workshop, like our initial weekend workshop.
Hmm.
And even like a summer intern would come,
That's
a
great.
VP of marketing would come,
Hmm.
and it elevates the conversation, and it gives a baseline for everyone to say, oh, because in Beyond Reasons, we talk about your unconscious assumption, what's driving you. And you really start to know yourself. It's the beginning of like really starting to understand, gosh, how does this system work? And how am I
Right.
hearing things? And so it puts everyone on a nice level playing field. And then they're able to elevate the conversations in meetings and things like that. But so, I mean, that's certainly one, I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it. Like, that's one kind of like, hey, we support our people and send them through something along
Yeah, no, that's
those
a
lines.
great resource.
And,
Absolutely.
and then there's also like probably some more serious trauma resources that are needed if someone's particularly lost somebody recently or was really sick and, severely, the more severe cases of like, wow, how am I going to manage through this? How can I keep moving forward given some pretty significant blows?
Well, that's why it's so important for leaders to be in tune with where their team is at and what's going on, right? It can no longer be surface level and all just work related, right? It's really important for leaders in their check-in conversations and touching base. They really need to be in tune with what's going on and build relationships with all of their team members so that they can have those conversations and be more transparent about what's going on, and that team member be willing to open up a little bit, especially be willing to ask for help.
Yeah. One of my clients that I worked with for Get Speaking Gigs Now, she's a specialist in grief as well and works with corporations. So I'll introduce you guys, because it's like when something happens in the HR space, sometimes it's awkward of like, oh, should we say anything to it? Like, what do we do? Do we send flowers? Do we send a card?
Around it. Right.
Do we still ask if like they have that report that we need? Like it is
I know it's a serious
difficult conversation. So that's one of her areas of specialty after losing her spouse to cancer at an early age. She really dug deep and was like, okay, what would I have wanted in that situation? What would have been really appropriate? And so I'll connect the two of you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because what I think will end up happening out of this is we'll end up building an employer resource group for some of the smaller companies that can't do it internally, right? Build that employee resource group and pull some of those resources together so that smaller companies can still access that type of support.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be, there's so many layers. It doesn't have to be really, really pricey. It could be like, okay, well, here's what we can offer, put into our package, and then lots of choices. Cool. And then what was your third tip? Not that you have a last tip, because I know you have a lot.
Yeah, so tip number 3, again, all around organizational preparedness. One of the things that employers and businesses and everybody's going to have to look at as we come through this is, the labor laws and employment laws, those will continue to shift. And so as an organization, be prepared for expanded requirements for workplace safety, right? At the end of the day, even if you go back into a physical office, that physical office is probably going to be redesigned so that social distancing exists within your physical office. We don't know, PPEs may still be required for the next 6 or 12 months. So as an employer and an organization in preparing for this, be prepared for an increase in your responsibilities to enhance workplace safety. The standard office cleaning of just, getting it cleaned a couple times a week with dusting may no longer be enough, right? We may be doing these deep cleanings once a month with a team that's qualified to completely disinfect offices. So, be prepared for that, and also be paying attention to the Families First Coronavirus Act was a expansion of FMLA and provided 2 weeks of sick pay for anybody dealing with COVID or had a family member dealing with it.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
That law is scheduled to sunset at the end of the year, but we expect that, there may be some very specific sick leave laws that come out of this that tie specifically to the pandemic or other types of crises. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. So just paying attention to what's going on and watching the different components is going to be very important moving forward.
Wow. Yeah. See, there's so many laws and things like that because you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the HR space and all the benefits and the things that people are going to need for their company. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I know that business owners really need a trusted resource, because how would you know to ask about these things if you don't know what it is? Like, you're just trying to run your business, right?
Exactly.
Where would people get a hold of you, Brian?
So a few ways you can get a hold of me. You can email me direct, Brian, BRIANM @scaleocityworks.com. I'm on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there as well, or just visit the website and check us out there.
At scalocityworks.com. Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, and really be able to look and see what, especially this is a great time if you hadn't gotten your HR, let's say, stuff together. Like, you're like winging
Never
a
too late.
prayer HR plan, then
Never too late.
got to give Brian a call so that you can have your ducks in a row, right? And be prepared, especially. So it's kind of like you need this anyway, but now we're really, it accelerates, to use your word.
Absolutely.
It accelerates that need to make sure that you're protected, that your employees are protected, and so forth. So, oh wow, thank you so much for sharing your tips. This was great and so timely, and this is information that people are going to need for a while now. So
Absolutely.
I think that's important. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm Lisa at Rock Your Talk, and I also want to share a tip that I keep forgetting to tell you is if you are so inclined, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get alerts of any other tips that are coming down your way. Because there's so many experts that I've been talking to. I know that this information is really, really important for you to hear. And remember to be kind to yourself today. If you haven't done that yet, make sure and take some time to do that. And to somebody else too, which I know you're probably already doing, but just one more just in case. All right, everybody.
Great advice.
Thank you, Brian. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. I enjoyed it. Take care.